Viewers. Yeah, I did drop out. Okay, here we are live. This is Tom, and this is Tom's Radio Room Show. And I'm here with Rob, who has, I would call, an exclusive on a brand new radio. And he's going to present that radio to us and show us what's out there today. Hey, Rob, how you doing?
How's it going, Tom, and everyone else out there watching? Yeah, I got a new radio here, and I thought one of the best places to kind of show it off was Tom's show here. And the radio is the SDRPlay RSP-DX. This is a replacement for the RSP-2. That's sort of the mid-level radio in their lineup. And I've got a pre-production model here that I've been playing with for the last few days, and it seems to be working pretty good. So we thought it would be, something that you guys might be interested in. So we'll show it to you today.
Okay. Oops. There we go. Trying to catch up on the chat here. People are really popping in.
Quick.
Let me ask people in the chat room and watching the video and the audio. How are we doing as far as video and audio? Just give us the feedback. And then we will move on to this screen. There we go. And now Rob's going to tell us what this is all about.
Okay, so here, this is the SDRPlay website. And if you want to watch their official video on the radio, you can click the video here on their page, or you can search for it on YouTube or wherever. But basically, like we said, this is a replacement for the RSP-2, actually the RSP-2 Pro. So this radio is enclosed in a metal case, as you can see here, just like the RSP-2 Pro was. It's got 3 antenna ports, 2 SMA ports, and 1 BNC port. That's a difference from the older RSP-2. They replaced the high impedance port with this one. It's a 50 ohm port. I think they go into explanation as to why in their video. On the other side of the radio, we have the standard USB jack and a jack for a reference clock. If you want more stability, you can run an external clock on this thing.
For those who are, Rob, for those that are not familiar with SDRPlay products, can you give us a little intro into what the company is and what they produce?
Sure. As you can see on the screen here, the SDRPlay is a company that makes software-defined receivers. I wouldn't say they're necessarily budget receivers, but you get a lot of value for your money with these things. So if you're new to software-defined radios, that kind of a thing, this may be a place you want to look to start, because you can get into the hobby relatively cheaply, and there's a lot of performance here with these radios. So they make kind of 3 different flavors of, I don't want to say the same thing, but 3 flavors of the SDRs. They have an entry level, a mid-level one, which is this one, and then they have a top-of-the-line one that has dual receivers and whatnot. The company is based in the UK, and as you can see on their website there, all their products are designed and manufactured in the UK. But if you're in North America, you can buy these things from Ham Radio Outlet. I'm not sure where else they're available in other countries, but I think most of the popular ham radio distribution places carry them. Or I think you can buy them directly from SDRPlay as well.
Okay, you were going to show us the spec sheet?
Oh, we can do that. Yep. So let's go through a little bit of the spec sheet here. I'm not going to read it word for word, but you can kind of see it here. If you want to look at this yourself in detail, that's available on their website as well. So you can go download your own copy. But we'll just kind of look at some of the main features that are different with this radio than its predecessor. And one of the biggest things for this one, you can kind of see down here, is that the performance below 2 megahertz is substantially increased. And I've tested this a little bit over the last couple of days, and I can kind of confirm that, especially below the broadcast band. If you're a long wave enthusiast, or even below that, this is a radio you're going to want to consider. And we'll try and do some demo of that later. I'm not sure what signals are out there right now, or how well the bands are, but we can definitely give it a try and see what we can hear. It's got the 3 antenna ports, like I said before, all selectable in software. And one thing that's different with this model is that all of the antenna ports are available in all of the modes in the software. I think in previous versions, some of the ports were not available with certain features and that sort of a thing, but these are all available now. And one other improvement that they've made is that the isolation between the ports is much better than it was in previous modes. So if you had 2 antennas connected, but we're listening to, the antenna on port 1, sometimes you'd get a little bleed over from the other one. And they've done a good job at reducing the bleed over, the crosstalk, and improving the isolation between the ports.
Now, does it have 2 tuners or just 1 tuner?
Just 1 tuner, but selectable between the 3 antennas.
Okay. So you can just, in the software, you can just do a quick click and go from the various antenna ports.
Yes. Yep. You can just click from one to the other. So if you have, a long wire on one port, and then maybe you have a VHF antenna on another for higher bands and that kind of a thing, you can kind of easily click between them. One of the main features of this too, along with the improved performance below 2 megahertz, is this new high dynamic range mode that's available below 2 megahertz, which increases performance down there. It's not going to change signal strengths or anything like that, but it's going to improve IMD and things like that, I believe. And I haven't fully kind of tested that or vetted it yet, but just from casual use with it so far over the last couple of days, it's definitely working. So then there's some other features here that are somewhat typical of some of the other SDRPlay offerings, but you get it in this one as well, like the calibrated S meter that you can output as a CSV file. That's useful if you're trying to do data logging or measurements or something. Even in a lab environment, you can use this as sort of oh, go ahead.
Did you mention that it has a calibration port?
Well, it's got that external clock port.
Clock port. Okay.
Yeah. So if you want to, have a real high precision time base on this thing, you can connect that up. For my uses, I don't really use that. I'm just a casual, kind of a shortwave listener here. But if you want something a little more precise, you can do that for, exact frequency measurements and things like that. So again, going down the sheet some more, you can see the various applications here. There's lots of things you can do with these, and you're able to do most of this stuff with this radio. The only thing this one can't do, well, I don't want to say the only thing, but probably the main thing that this one can't do is the diversity receive. If you're interested in diversity receive, you need the RSP Duo, which has the dual tuners in it, in order to get that to work. Let's see. So you can kind of look through the list here and see all the things that you can do with these. And then down here is the comparison chart. So if you're considering one of these radios, this is a good chart to look at. So you can tell which features are important to you and decide which ones you want to buy. Like I said, this one here, its kind of main strength down here is the performance below 2 megahertz.
Where does it fit price-wise?
Price-wise, it's right in the middle. I think the press release said it's about $200 US, give or take. I don't know if the exact pricing has been determined yet, but oh, and that is another thing. I don't think I mentioned it. This radio is not available for purchase just yet. I believe in about 2 to 3 weeks, it'll be available at all of the distributors. And the other thing to mention is that the software, the new version of SDR Uno, version 1.33, is also not available for download just yet. That will be made available when the radio is officially released for purchase.
So that's why I was saying Rob has an exclusive here. He's got one of these radios before they're released to the general public. So we're getting some late breaking news here.
Yeah, I have the beta version of SDR Uno, and we can try and show that later. So again, keep in mind it's a beta version. So if we see any little little tweaks or things that aren't working exactly perfectly, I'm sure they'll have it ironed out when the software is released. So then down here, the second page of the data sheet just kind of goes into some of the technical specs of the radio. We probably don't want to read through all of this stuff, but again, if you're interested in these numbers, you can go to their website and download this for yourself and kind of study those and see what's what. So what do you think, Tom? Any questions or comments, or is there anything in the chat? I don't have it up right now.
Nothing in the chat right now. You mentioned the new software. Have you noticed anything new beyond the stuff that's new for this new radio?
I haven't had a chance to really play with it that much yet. I wanted to kind of go back into the scanning modes and kind of check that again, because I haven't used it much in the last month or two. So I need to take a look at that and see if there's any differences. I didn't remember reading anything published about that, but there very well could be some upgrades. I know that in the software, there is now a status bar down there, and I saw that briefly yesterday in their press release, and I haven't had a chance to play with that, but I think that gives you some more information about the software and what upgrades are available and things like that. So maybe we can look at that when we go live with the software. But again, for the real detailed and correct information on that, probably go to their website and it'll be all listed there.
Okay, well, you mentioned it. Let's go live with the radio.
All right, give me a second over here to hook it back up.
All righty. And if anybody's got any questions in the chat room, please put them in a comment and we'll try to answer them.
Okay, so the antenna that I'm going to use the BNC port. I've got an antenna already ready to go here. And this antenna is my 40 and 80 meter fan dipole that I use for ham radio stuff out in the yard. It's only up about 15 feet in the trees or thereabouts. It works great on ham radio. It works great for receiving stuff here. I've used it in all of my videos and whatnot. So that's what we'll use here today. And I've got it on the BNC port because that's just what I've got ready to go. So, but again, I think all of these ports can be used interchangeably for the most part. So let's see. Do we want to try and fire up the software here, Tom?
Sure. Absolutely.
Okay, so here is SDRUno, and again, to those of you who are already familiar with SDRPlay's products and SDRUno, it's really not going to look any different.
Let me see if I can go to full screen on your display. Stand by.
Sure.
There we go.
Okay, there you go. So it's really not going to look that much different. There are a few things that are here. Let me hide this thing. Okay, so here's that status bar I was talking about down at the bottom. You can see my mouse moving. It says, welcome to SDRUno version 1.33 beta build. Click to see the latest changes. So I've clicked on that and it brings up a web page here. And there is the change log. So we can read through that. But for now, I'm just going to minimize that. I'll just kind of briefly scan it. But I'll minimize it. We can refer back to that if we want to take a look at it. So again, here's the main differences you're going to see in SDRUno are up here in the main panel. You can see we have the buttons for the 3 antenna ports, antenna A, C, and B. B is the only one that has the bias T power available. So if you're running an amplified antenna, you'll need to put it on port B. But otherwise, all of the ports are interchangeable. We have the standard medium wave and FM broadcast filters here. I think those are a carryover from previous versions, and the DAB filter if you live in an area that has DAB. Let's see. I think the RF gain control has some more granularity to it than it did before, but other than that, I think it's about the same. The main change here, the main feature, is over here in the RX control. If I click on the bands button, you can see there's now 4 options. There's ham lower, ham upper, and broadcast, which are carryovers. And then there's now the new HDR panel. And you can see when I click on that, it brings up some other preset band frames here. You can see 2200, 630, so on and so forth. So what I'm going to do for now, just for the purposes of testing, is I'll click the full button. And what that's going to do is that's going to bring us into the middle of the broadcast band or thereabouts. And it's also going to enable the HDR mode, which you can see up here in the main panel. You can see the IF bandwidth. It now says HDR. So when you're in HDR mode, you can't change the IF bandwidth like you can when you're not in HDR mode. It kind of has a preset band frame, and it locks the local oscillator, meaning that as you tune around, you can only tune within this band frame in order to, keep the HDR feature active. So let's go ahead and hit play.
So what is the range you're seeing on the display?
1.7 megahertz is the bandwidth when you're in HDR mode, I believe.
Okay.
So I've got that going. And, I have to pick the right antenna port. There we go.
Whoa, here we go.
So that's a difference. So let me just tune to, really quick. Here's a local broadcast station. And we'll bring up the filter.
Say hi and buy at a betting barn near you.
So there you go. I mean, that's typical kind of performance of SDR Uno. Again, not really anything different there. The one thing, like I said earlier, that I've noticed is the performance starts to shine below here. Or maybe it's better here, too, if you live in an area where signals are weak. But as you can see, I've got tons of stations here showing up on the broadcast band with my antenna and my location here in southern New England. There's just a lot there. So one example I showed already on my channel, I'll show it here, is if we go down to, and let me see if I can do this the right way. I want to click long wave, and I'm going to try and tune down. Nope, I didn't frame that right. I think I have to stay in full. Yeah, and let's tune down to 60 kilohertz. Whoops. If I can operate the mouse here. And I'm going to put this in CW mode. And we're not hearing it today. Maybe it's there a little bit. You can kind of hear it. I don't know if you can hear it, Tom, or see it on the waterfall there.
I see something on the waterfall, but it's a little, what I'm seeing is a little higher frequency. There it is. Yeah, there it is.
Right there. That is WWVB. That's the signal that's used to synchronize the time on all of those automatically setting clocks. Now, on any of the radios I have in my shack here, including my older SDRPlay units, I've never been able to hear that at all. And right now you can kind of hear it. It's really weak right now. Could be just the time of day, that kind of a thing. When I was
or it could be your antenna.
Well, when I was playing with this last night on the same antenna, it was coming in gangbusters.
Oh.
So
it was at night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course now it's early morning. Well, mid-morning. But anyway, you kind of get the idea, is that you can kind of try and listen to some of this stuff down here that wasn't available in previous radios, because the performance just wasn't there unless the signals were really strong. This thing, with the HDR mode and just the general improvements they've made to the front end architecture, it's now possible to kind of receive down here. We could probably try and tune some other stations in down here, Tom, if you know any frequencies to try. We can kind of see what's.
Try between 150 and 300.
Okay. Let's see. Where did I go?
Those are coming from Europe.
Okay, there's one here. Let's see what that is. There's something there. Are these AM stations or B?
Yes, yes.
So we'll switch over to AM. I'll put the narrow filter on. Let me zoom out a bit. Just kind of scroll up a bit and see what we can find. And I'll kind of chase the display here. Looks like they might have something there. No, that's just noise. I think I was hearing something last night around 250 or maybe 275.
Yep.
That
I think the BBC is up in that area.
yeah,
they call it BBC One, BBC Two.
Okay. I was hearing something with French language. I don't know if it was Morocco. I don't know if I would get that lucky, but getting some noise there. Yeah, it could be the time of day, Tom.
Yeah, it would be best at night.
Yeah. Whoops. One thing that I will mention is that, if you're tuning around down here and whatever your situation might be, if you start to see bleed over from your local AM broadcast stations, which I'm not really seeing any of that here, but if that's something that you're seeing, that built-in broadcast band filter, which is this thing right here, really does a good job at cutting that out. You can see I just turned it on, and it got rid of some of the noise floor over here on the right that kind of shows up as we're approaching the broadcast band. Let me kind of bring this over. You can see the broadcast band there. And if I hit that, you can see it pretty much kills it completely. So it's pretty effective.
Okay, Peter in the chat says the BBC is on 198 kilohertz.
Let's give it a try. I'll unclick that just for the moment. And let's slide this back here. Yeah, I'm not hearing anything.
There is a strong signal there. It's right in the middle of your screen right now on the bottom.
Over here?
Yeah.
That's probably noise, but we'll try it.
Okay.
I'm not sure why it's not clicking all the way up there. Oh, no, that's just noise.
Yeah. No, I think it was at a different frequency, but now it's scrolled off, so I can't tell you.
Oh, okay.
But you did have what looked like a fairly strong signal there, but I don't remember the frequency. It was on the lower part of the screen, and it was sticking out quite readily. It was the reddish blue screen color, meaning a strong signal.
So it was pretty strong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right now we're just hearing noise.
I don't know where it was.
But
there's a strong signal on the right-hand side.
This one?
No, on the right-hand side, extreme.
Over here?
Right, yeah. Right
yeah,
there.
I think that's the broadcast band. Or no, it's not, is it?
No.
Okay. That's just the carrier. Let's see. I'm not sure what that would be. It sounds like some kind of data. Would that be some sort of a beacon?
Could be a beacon.
Yeah, I don't know my long wave frequencies because I haven't had this radio, so I haven't had a chance to really do much down there. But it looks like I got to start brushing up on that. Unless that's just something from the shack here, I don't really know. There's more of it here. That could be just data from the shack, from the wireless routers or something.
Yeah.
But there does seem to be quite a bit of it there. Let's see, nothing there. We'll just go back up here again, kind of slowly. Yeah, just
okay. Here's another suggestion.
Okay.
252.
252.
Yep.
I wonder if that's what I was hearing last night.
That was he said, this is Peter. He said it's Ireland.
2. Let's try it. And I'll put that up in AM mode. Nope, that's dead right now.
Yep. Yeah, it's a bad time of the day. You're in Massachusetts, right?
Connecticut.
Yep.
Same thing. I'm 6 miles from Massachusetts.
Right. And the thing is, as far as long wave from Europe, you're in a good location.
Yeah,
And
I have received long wave here on at least one occasion. It was last year, sort of around Christmas time, on one of my older units, and it worked pretty well that day. But again, conditions were just right.
right, right. I have never received a broadcast station on long wave, although I've tried many times. I've only received a couple of beacons, but they were local in the United States, and that's it.
I see. So you're a little further west than me. Well, of course, you're further south.
Yeah, plus I'm on the west coast of Florida, not the east coast.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so that is probably all we're going to see down on the long wave band. What do you think now, Tom? Is there anything that you want to see, or is there anybody?
Have you noticed any improvement in the shortwave band?
I haven't had a chance to really play with that yet. I've been kind of so excited about tuning around down here that I've been kind of focusing on that in the time that I've had with the radio so far. But again, being sort of a casual listener, I don't know. I'd have to actually do a compare, I think, and try it and see one radio versus the other if there's much difference. But I was listening to some guys on the 160 meter ham band the other night. That's actually what I listened to when I first got the radio. I first plugged it in. The first thing I heard were those guys on 160 because I know they're there every night, and they sounded pretty good. I don't really have a frame of reference as to know whether they were stronger or more well defined or anything, but I was bringing them in quite well, and they were all over New England, kind of a thing, and able to hear them all on that.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see what you can do with an antenna that's tuned for the long wave band.
Yeah, now that I have this capability, or that I know that this is going to work, I've already got thoughts in my head. I've got plenty of room here to put up some long wires, so I might just do that before it snows, of course, here in Connecticut. But if I can get out there and string up a long wire, I might just do that.
Yeah, I on my Duo with that high Z input port, I've never used that because I really all my antennas come in, well, most of them all come in on coax, so it's 50 ohms. So to me, that's kind of a wasted port for me, and I like the fact that they've now changed that over to 50 ohms.
Yeah, and I believe. Let me just pause this for a minute. I believe that that is why they replaced that high Z port. I think they said that in one of their videos, that they found most people were kind of set up like you, Tom, where they have a long wire antenna and they bring it into their shack through a short piece of coax, as opposed to bringing the wire right into the radio. Because if they bring the wire right into the radio, the last few feet of it starts picking up interference from the shack, their computers, or whatever. So I think when they did their kind of research on it, that's what they found, is that more people would rather have that 50 ohm port so they can connect up to a coax, and then they can put an on or a balun or something outside the shack, and it'll work better for them.
Yeah, the other thing is I really don't like those SMA connectors, because typically you're going to use cable, and even though it's a short cable, it's going to be one of those real small cables that I think has a lot of loss in them, and so that's why I like the B and C connector. Has less loss in it.
Yeah, that's a good point too. You can bring your low loss coax right up to the port. I just use the short pigtails from the SMA to an SO239. And they seem to work okay. I don't know that there's too much loss in them. They're only a few inches long, but mechanically, they're a little weak. And some of these, depending on where you get them, they can kind of fall apart easily if you tug on them and that kind of a thing. So I agree. I like the BNC port on there. But I've done okay with the SMA ports, but they are a little small.
And I agree with you on your comment about the metal case providing extra weight, because with my RSP1, which is a plastic case, I have the same problem where I'm knocking it off because it's so light, and it's good to have that extra weight.
Yeah, the plastic case has its virtues as well. If you want to take the thing portable, or you're bringing it with you on a trip or something, it's lighter. But yeah, for in the shack, I prefer the heavier case. It just kind of sits better once you've established where it's going to be on your bench or your shelf or wherever you're putting it.
Okay, Peter had one more comment about frequencies, and he says at 20 kilohertz is where the submarines communicate.
And I did tune down there. I did tune down there. There is something there, but I don't think it's.
Yeah, that's be very intermittent.
Yeah, I don't know what mode the submarines transmit on, but there's something there.
Yeah. Spooky.
Yeah, it's a little spooky, right? No, that's probably just noise. Probably just noise from the shack.
What would be an interesting test is to tune it to a known broadcast station, say in Europe, like some of the ones that Peter mentioned, and then put it in record mode and just let it run for a couple hours and see if you capture anything.
Yeah, that's another thing. Or one of the features I like here, and I haven't played with it enough really yet, and it was a feature that I was hoping for at one point. I don't remember when they put it in here. Was the scheduler, so you could schedule this. You wouldn't have to let it sit all day. So you're not home and you figure, okay, propagation is going to start picking up around 4 o'clock or whatever. I don't know, and you can kind of program it to record at that point, and so you're not recording all day. But
absolutely,
yeah, excellent point.
Okay, I think we've touched on everything. I thank Rob for coming on board and showing us this brand new radio that only he and a very few people have right at the moment. And I think you said it's going to be a couple of weeks before it's available to the public.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what the press release said. Somewhere around November 22nd or 24th, somewhere along there, I think is what they're targeting for. So keep your eyes out on the SDRPlay website for that, or maybe HRO or wherever. And I'll have at least one more video on the radio on my channel. I'll do my usual video on it, kind of an overview and show some demos and that kind of a thing. So you can look for that too. Maybe there'll be a little more information there than what we've showed here. And if you have any questions or anything you want to see, drop me a comment on my channel or drop Tom a comment here, or and let us know, and we'll try and include it in the video that I make.
And I think there's only like 3 videos right now listed on the SDRPlay website. So there's not a lot of information yet. Mike Ladd has done a couple of videos already on it, and I'm sure he's going to do a lot more. So you can check out his YouTube channel. That's Mike Ladd. And I think we're going to wrap this up. I don't see any more questions or comments in the chat. So again, thanks to Rob. And Rob, you got anything to say before we call it quits?
No, I guess that's it. If there's no other questions in the chat, or there's nothing else that you had questions on or want to see, then yeah, this is probably a good time to wrap it up. Thanks for having me on your channel again, Tom. I always appreciate that. It's fun to kind of come on here. As we've talked about offline, I'm not a big live streamer, but I do like to do it once in a while, and it's nice to have somebody to kind of interact with while we do this. It makes it a little easier and a little more fun to kind of do, rather than sit here and talk at a camera, by myself. So thanks.
Okay, we're going to call it a wrap. Thanks to everybody for watching, and check out Rob's YouTube channel, that's 741, all spelled out. And that's it. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. 7-3.